Imagine standing in the center of your garden in the dead of January. The air is freezing. The ground is hard as iron. Everything you labored over in the spring, the delicate lettuce, the fragile peppers, the expensive spinach, is long gone. Their brown, rotten skeletons are buried under 6 inches of snow. This is the accepted reality of modern agriculture, a brutal cycle of birth, death, and decay. But look closer. Standing tall in the middle of this frozen graveyard, defying every law of the season, is a single massive plant. It towers 6 feet above the snow. Its stem is not a stalk, but a thick, woody trunk. And its leaves? They're not dead. They are a deep electric purple. In fact, if you were to reach out, snap off a frozen leaf, and eat it right there in the blizzard, you would discover a biological paradox. It is not bitter. It tastes sweeter than a summer strawberry. This is not a genetic modification. This is not a fairy tale. This is the purple tree collard. It is a vegetable that simply forgot how to die. While you were breaking your back planting spinach every 30 days, only to watch it rot the moment the sun gets hot, this plant does the opposite. It grows into a literal tree. It survives scorching heat, it laughs at the frost, and you plant it exactly once to harvest fresh, nutrient-dense greens for the next 20 years. So you have to ask the uncomfortable question. If a plant exists that yields food for 2 decades without replanting, why isn't it in every grocery store? Why are you still buying bags of slime from the supermarket? The answer lies in a hidden flaw of the industrial food system, a system that profits from your hunger, not your independence. Welcome to Ancestral Soil.
To understand the true power of this biological anomaly, we must peel back the layers of history. The archive opens in the 19th century on the wind-swept island of Jersey between England and France. In this harsh maritime climate, farmers couldn't rely on delicate crops. They needed something that could stand against the Atlantic gales. They found it in a mutant strain of kale that refused to stay close to the ground. These weren't just vegetables, they were giants. Historical records describe fields of these plants reaching 20 feet in height, forests of food towering over the men who planted them. But here is the detail history often omits. The people of Jersey didn't just eat the leaves, they respected the architecture of the plant. The stalks were so rich in lignin, the substance that makes wood hard, that when the plant finally died, farmers harvested the trunks. They stripped the bark, sanded them down, and varnished them. They used a vegetable to make walking sticks as strong as oak. They even used them as rafters to support the thatched roofs of their cottages. Look at the salad on your plate. Now look at the roof above your head. I bet you never thought you could build your house with your dinner. For centuries, this plant was the ultimate survival asset. It provided shade in summer, sugar-rich greens in winter, and timber when it died. It was the definition of agricultural efficiency. But then the world changed. The Industrial Revolution arrived. Speed replaced durability. Uniformity replaced resilience. The food system shifted toward crops that could be mechanically harvested and packaged in plastic. The tree collard was too big, too wild, and too permanent for this fast-paced economy. And so the giant was felled, not by the weather, but by the market.
So if this plant is the ultimate survival asset, why is it missing from your garden today? This is where the story turns into a detective thriller. If you go to Google right now and search for purple tree collard seeds, you will find thousands of sellers on Etsy and Amazon promising a forest of purple giants for $5. I have to warn you, do not buy them. 99% of those packets are a biological scam. The purple tree collard has a unique genetic trait that makes it a nightmare for commerce, but a miracle for the self-sufficient gardener. It is biologically unstable. This plant was a happy accident of nature, a mutation that never intended to reproduce by seed. If a tree collard flowers and you plant those seeds, the baby plant will not be a tree collard. It will revert back to its primitive state. You will grow a wild, bitter, spindly kale that dies in the heat. It loses the purple color. It loses the sweetness. It loses the immortality gene. This is the seed trap. The industry is selling you a genetic counterfeit. And this reveals the true reason why big agriculture has erased this plant. It is not because it's hard to grow. It is because it cannot be commodified. The modern food system is built on planned obsolescence. They need you to buy hybrid seeds every spring. They need your plants to die so you remain a customer. But the purple tree collard breaks this chain. Once you own one living plant, you can clone it indefinitely. You can cut a branch, stick it in the ground, and grow a second forest. You never have to pay the system a single dime again. To a corporation that relies on recurring revenue, a plant that feeds you for 20 years isn't a product. It is a threat to their business model. While the industry rejects it for being unprofitable, science validates it for being unstoppable. Why does this plant taste better when the world is freezing? We have all eaten winter vegetables from the supermarket. Tough, fibrous, tasting like damp cardboard. That is because the water inside their cells is on the verge of freezing. But the tree collard possesses a mechanism called cryoprotection. When the temperature drops below freezing, the plant senses danger. To stop its cells from bursting, it actively converts stored starches into complex sugars. In nature, sugar acts as a biological antifreeze. It lowers the freezing point of the sap. The result? The colder the blizzard, the higher the sugar content. While your grocery store spinach turns to mush, the tree collard undergoes a chemical transformation that makes it sweeter than fruit. But the true power lies in its color. That deep, dark purple isn't for decoration. It signals the presence of massive amounts of anthocyanins. Think of anthocyanins as a biological shield. The plant uses this compound to protect its DNA from UV radiation. When you consume it, you upload that shield into your body. Nutritional analysis shows that because this plant lives for years, it draws up minerals from deep within the subsoil that annual vegetables can never reach. It is denser in calcium than milk. It rivals meat in protein availability per calorie. This is not just a salad ingredient. This is green meat, a pharmaceutical factory growing on a wooden trunk. So, the question remains, if the seeds are a lie, how do you actually get your hands on this biological weapon? The answer requires you to join a quiet underground network of gardeners. You don't plant this vegetable, you clone it. To join this club, do not look for seed packets. Go to Etsy, eBay, or local permaculture groups and search specifically for rooted starts or unrooted cuttings. You are looking for a living stem about 6 inches long. And here is the beautiful part. It is easier to grow than a weed. This plant has such a fierce will to live that if you take that stick, shove it into moist soil, and keep it in the shade, it will sprout roots. It wants to survive. You don't need a degree in horticulture. You just need to keep it alive long enough for it to realize it is in the earth. But remember one critical rule, the spine. Because it grows so fast and the leaves are heavy with sugar water, a strong wind can snap the trunk. You must stake it. Treat it like a young fruit tree, not a broccoli plant. Give it a spine to lean on. And when you harvest, never cut the top. That is where the growth happens. Snap the leaves from the bottom up. This encourages the plant to reach for the sky, creating that signature palm tree silhouette while providing you with food every single week, year after year. We live in a time where food security feels fragile. Supply chains are breaking. Inflation is rising. Planting a purple tree collard is a declaration of independence from that system. When you plant spinach, you are renting your food security for a month. When you plant a tree collard, you are building an asset that will pay you dividends for a generation. Imagine looking out your window 10 years from now. It is the middle of a blizzard. The rest of the world is gray and dead, but there, standing 6 feet tall against the white snow, is your purple giant, alive, sweet, and waiting to feed you. You didn't just plant a vegetable, you planted a legacy. Stop gardening for the season, start gardening for the future. This is the architect from Ancestral Soil. Go find your cutting and let it grow.